Hello! I am so glad that you are here to worship God with me today. You'll see that I have something very special in front of me, and I'm so excited to tell you the story for today. But first, I have a question for you. Are you ready? Are you ready to worship? Are you ready to come close to God and feel God coming so close to you that you can feel God's love and God's power, the strength that God gives us, the peace that God gives us? Are you ready for that? I hope so. If you are, then I will welcome you into our worship circle today, and I will say, the Lord be with you. I love it when you say, and also with you. That way we can share God's blessing together. I'll try it one more time. I'll say, the Lord be with you. And you say, and also with you. And that means that we are here today in the presence of God to hear a story from the Bible and listen for God's voice, to know how God is calling us to live. We are here to listen to God, but we're also here to talk to God. And we can do that in lots of different ways. We can do that with our regular talking voice, just like I'm talking to you right now. We can talk to God so quietly that only God hears us. But we know that God always hears us, even if we're talking super quietly or are so silent that nobody else can hear. And we can also talk to God using our singing voices. So let's do that together. Father, we adore you, and we lay our lives before you. How we love you. Jesus, we adore you, and we lay our lives before you. How we love you. Spirit, we adore you, and we lay our lives before you. How we love you. That was such beautiful singing. I love to hear your singing, and you know who else is super happy to hear us sing? And that's God. God gave us the gift of our voices, and God loves it when we talk to God, when we sing to God, when we look to God and give thanks to God wherever we are. It makes God so happy, and it fills us with joy too. And you will see that I have the calendar here. Oops. I had to move it to the side because of this box right here. Do you see our calendar? Sometimes people say it looks like a clock. And both of those things are used to tell time. In the church, we use a circle to tell time. And that reminds us that for every beginning, there is an ending. And every ending, there is a beginning. On and on and on. And God holds all of our time, from all the way at the very beginning of our lives, all the way through when we are with God. And you can see, too, that the church uses colors to tell time. There are lots of beautiful colors in this calendar. You can see we have purple and white and green. Here's some more purple. Here's some more white. And, ooh, that one's hot. That one's red hot. One piece of red. And then lots and lots and lots of green. And we are in the green time right now. And this is the time of green and growing, when children are growing strong in their bodies and growing so big, and we are all growing in our faith and growing closer to God. So right now we are in the time of the color green. Do you see what I have in front of me today? Do any of you know what this is? Some of you have been in this place before, and you know that amazing things can happen here. Also, it can be a little bit dangerous. Sometimes it can be a little bit scary. So we have to be brave and place our faith in God before we go into this place. Do you remember what it's called? Yes, this is the desert. Let's look at the desert. Let's listen to the desert. The desert is a strange and dangerous place. So much happens to the people of God in the desert that we need a piece of it to help tell our stories. In the daytime in the desert, the sun is hot. And the sand can sting your skin and get itchy and uncomfortable. But at night, the desert is very cold, and you need a place to stay or warm clothes to protect you. When the wind blows, the shape of the desert changes, and it's easy to get lost or lose your way. The wind can blow the sand into your eyes, so it's hard to see. Sometimes the whole sky is filled with sand when the wind blows it. There's almost no food and almost no water in the desert. It can be very dangerous and it can be very strange. The desert is a strange and wonderful and dangerous place. People don't go there unless they have to, or they have a really good reason. After the waters of the great flood went away, the creatures that had been on the ark went to the four corners of the earth to fill it with life again. People mostly settled along rivers. They settled in villages, small towns, and sometimes even great cities. The greatest and most important city of that time was the city of In the city of there lived a family, and they believed that there was one God, and that all of God was everywhere. They weren't completely sure about that because they'd only been in one place, but that's what they thought. That's what they hoped. Abram was a man in this family, and his wife's name was Sarai. God called Abram and Sarai to leave and go out to a place God would show them. They really hoped that God would be there with them. They believed that was true, but they weren't sure yet. Abram and Sarai left and set out into the desert. It was a long way. They took with them other people, even people who were old, even children. And they brought animals with them too. At night they would stay in tents to stay protected and warm. And during the day they would travel along the river to show them the way and give them water to drink. They went a very, very long way. Finally, they came to the city of Haran, and they stopped there. They settled in the city of Haran with the people who had come with them and all their animals. Sometimes at night, Abram would go out to the edge of the desert. He would look out over the sand and up into the sky. And God was there. Abram came so close to God, and God came so close to Abram, that Abram knew what God was telling him. Abram called to God, and God said, "Go out." God wanted Abram and Sarai to keep going out into the desert to a new land that God would show them. And so Abram and Sarai left Haran, and they took Abram's nephew Lot and some other people with them. But this time, they headed out beyond the river. There was no river for drinking or showing them the way to go. They continued in the desert a long way. And then they came to a place called Shechem. Abram went up onto a hill to pray to God. Abram came so close to God, and God came so close to Abram, that Abram knew that God was with him. God was there in Shechem, on the hill. Abram was so happy that he built an altar to remember this place. This is a place where God is. And Abram and Sarai and the people with them continued their journey into the desert, farther and farther. And they came to a place called Bethel. And Abram went out on his own and prayed to God. And God was there too. God was there at Bethel. And Abram built an altar there. In the place he prayed to God. And Abram realized that God was not just here or there, or here or there. All of God was everywhere. Wherever they went, God was. And God was with them wherever they went. Abram and Sarai continued on. They kept going until they got all the way to Hebron, and they settled near the oaks of Mamre. Abram would go out to the edge of the desert, just as he liked to do, and he would look out over the sand and up into the sky. God came so close to Abram, and Abram came so close to God that Abram knew what God was saying to him. God said, "Abram, I will make you the father of a great family. The children in this family will be as many as the grains of sand in the desert, and as many as the stars in the sky." Abram said, "How is this possible? How will I be the father of so many? I am old. Sarai is old." And God said, "Everything is possible with me. You will be the father, Sarai will be the mother of a great family. I will change your name. You will no longer be called Abram, but Abraham, which means father of many. And Sarai will be called Sarah. And so from that time on, Abram was called Abraham, and his wife was called Sarah. One day, 3 strangers came out of the desert to visit Abram and Sarah. Sarah took 3 measures of flour, which is a lot, and she made bread and served milk and meat to them, as was the custom. Abram talked with the 3 strangers, while Sarah listened at the edge of the tent. The stranger said to Abraham, "You will be the father of a great family. In a year you will have a son." Abraham didn't think this was possible. And Sarah, who listened at the tent, laughed. How could that be? They were so old. They both laughed. How is this possible? The strangers went away, and guess what happened? They did have a son. And they laughed again, but this time for joy and happiness. And they named their son Laughter, because they were laughing for joy. And in their language, laughter is Isaac. Their son was named Isaac. He began to grow. After some time, Sarah, who was very, very old, died. And Abraham buried her in a cave near the oaks of Mamre. Abraham was so sad about Sarah. He had loved her so much, but there was still something he needed to do. Abraham sent a trusted servant to go back through the desert on a long, long journey back to the city of Haran to find a wife for Isaac. When the servant was near the city of Haran, a young woman came out to get water from the well. Her name was Rebecca, and she was as courageous as she was kind. She offered to get water for the servant and for all of his animals, and she invited the servant to come to her home. The servant told Rebecca's family all about Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and the great family. And Rebecca decided to go back with the servant and become part of the great family, to become Isaac's wife. She said goodbye to her family in Haran and traveled with the servant through the desert. It was a long journey. She traveled past Shechem, past Bethel, all the way toward Hebron. And when Isaac saw Rebekah coming with the servant, he ran out to meet her and welcome her. Isaac and Rebekah were married. After some time, Abraham, who was very old and full of years, also died. And he was buried in the cave near the great oak trees of Mamre, right with his beloved Sarah. Isaac and Rebekah had children, twins, and their children had children, and their children had children, and their children had children. And this went on for a very long, long time until your grandparents had your parents and your parents had you. And now you are part of the great family that is as many as the sands of the desert and as many as the stars in the sky. I wonder, which part of this story do you like the best? What's your favorite part? I wonder which part of this story is the most important. What is the most important part of this story? I wonder where you are in this story, or what tells something about you. Where you are, who you are, what you might be doing. I wonder if there is a part of this story that we could take out, but still have all the story we need. Is there any part of this story that we could take out? This is a big story. And it's a story about you. Even if you didn't know it before, it is. I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to ask us all to join together in prayer, in talking to God, and we'll talk to God with our regular talking voices, and then I want to ask a blessing on you. Please join me in praying. God, thank you so much for calling us by name, for loving us so much, for making us a part of your family. God, you are so... God, thank you for... God, please... Jesus, you taught us so many things. You shared your love with us. You came to show us how to live. And you told us how to pray. We want to pray the prayer that you taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I hope you enjoyed this story. You can find it in the very first book of the Bible, which is called Genesis. There are lots of amazing stories in Genesis. If you're a reader, you can read them for yourself, or you can ask someone else to read them for you. Or you can listen to me, because I have more stories to tell you, another one next week. This one you can find in Genesis chapters 12 through 15 and 24. And this particular version comes from Godly Play, Volume 2 by Jerome Berryman, which is the same place that you can find the calendar presentation. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and give you peace, and give you peace, and give you peace forever. God bless you. See you next time. Bye.